Welcome, everyone. Before we get started with the committee tonight, we have some guests here tonight. And I just wanted to let everybody know, a friendly reminder, we do have budget hearings will take place after the council meeting for the following offices: Common Pleas Court, Sheriff's Office, and the Executive's Office. At this time, I'm going to call up Doug Piakash, President and CEO of Akron Zoo. He will provide a presentation to council.
Thank you very much for having me. As you all know, we give an annual. Is that better? Yes. Awesome. So thank you for having us today. As you all know, we give an annual report to council about what has happened at the zoo over the last year. And next slide, please. So the Akron Zoo, our mission is to connect your life to wildlife while inspiring lifelong learning and moving everyone to conservation action. We have 3 pillars to everything we do. It focuses on community, education, and conservation. Next slide, please. By the numbers in the last year, the Akron Zoo is home to 61 animal habitats, providing enriching experiences for visitors. We are presently 107 acres, which still to me is a pinch me moment, because when I started with the zoo nearly 30 years ago, we were about 1.5 acres developed. So it is a big difference. We also have seen last year 404,000 people on-site attendance, 131,000 people reached by our education department, which is made up of 11 educators, 12,837 member households across the region. We are also home to well over 2,000 individual animals, comprising 40 species survival plans, 8 SAFE programs, and that's a newer thing. SAFE stands for Saving Animals from Extinction. So these are programs that are specifically aimed at the conservation of species in nature. 27 conservation projects, 2 extinct species that call the Akron Zoo home, and we are one of 250 accredited zoos by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums worldwide. Next slide, please. If you look at our attendance record over the last decade, we are Summit County's most visited attraction. We do anticipate this year that when we report back to you next year, we may also be able to add, assuming weather holds up, that we've had a record-breaking attendance year. Next slide, please. And of course, nothing wants to flip when you flip. We are a premier partner in STEM education, and I think you all know STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Our total student engagement across that field in 2024 included 57,000 students engaged in Akron Zoo education programming, 35,000 students attending Akron Zoo field trips, which I say this publicly all the time. A field trip to the zoo is not like a field trip to any other place you would go, because the park is built as an informal science learning center. So this is what we do, and that informal science learning can be engaged through these field trips. It's what makes us a premier STEM partner in Summit County and, in fact, across Northeast Ohio. We also have 38,000 roamer connections with the Akron Zoo visitors. What's a roamer? We have about 120 volunteers who are trained specifically to engage in educational activities with people on our site physically when they come to visit. In 2024, student engagement included almost 16,000 in formal education programming and over 10,000 field trip attendees specifically. And one of the milestones that we reached last year is, for the first time, we actually reached 100% of Summit County Public Schools that year as a partner. We, for the last 5 years, always got one close, but we're one off. So this past year, we met our goal to be an active partner with all 16 school districts. Next slide. A major achievement was the birth of Luco. our white-cheeked gibbon, young male. Now, you might wonder why, if this is looking back in 2024, are we celebrating something that happened in 2025? Well, everything that made it possible for us to have this youngster in 2025 happened in 2024. And Gibbon Safe, Saving Animals from Extinction, is headquartered at the Akron Zoo. So the global effort to rescue this small ape is headquartered here in Akron. And this was an amazing opportunity for us, and also an amazing achievement for our staff, because it's only the second youngster born to this mom and dad, Parker and Milo. And if you want to put it in frame of reference, there are about 100 animals left in nature. So when you think about that in relation to the work that's happening to save them from extinction, it's amazing, and it is headquartered here. Next slide. So now I move to what may bore some people, but is also particularly important because of the public support the Akron Zoo receives. So our financial report brings attention back to the fact that the zoo sits on a three-legged stool. One of those legs is our public support through our property tax levy. The second leg is our earned revenue, and the third, our philanthropic support. Through Summit County's property tax levy, your Akron Zoo has returned $8 in economic impact for every public dollar we've received. Through our earned revenue, which includes admissions, concessions, and paid programs that directly support our operation and growth, as well as the generous donors who have come forward from this community and beyond in order to support the work that we do. Next slide. If you look at the economic impact and the return on investment as a whole, that $1 of public support yielding $8 in economic impact stands true across the last 10 years, with a rolling measurement from 2015 through today. The overall impact was $105.5 million invested and $832.8 million returned to this community. And these are actions that involve the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services at all levels based on the Akron Zoo's overall operation. And this is not something, I always remind folks when we talk about it, that we're in partnership with somebody local who actually has a pony in the race to make the zoo look good in how we invest these funds. This is an outside firm based out of Chicago who has no horse in the race to make the zoo look good or bad, who is a specialist in looking at zoo operations as a whole. And this is a significant impact in the zoo, being of the zoo in the community, being the most visited attraction and also a highly impactful attraction. Next slide. So this slide breaks down the overall operating income and the operating expenses by percentage. So 24% of the county tax levy that the zoo receives goes towards operating the zoo. So what that means is 76% of the zoo's regular operations is supported by earned revenue and philanthropic support. 31% of the county tax levy moves to support the master plan development, which is the construction on that 107-acre site, to be able to respond to the appreciative inquiry that we drew across this community annually. It began almost 25 years ago, and it continues today with quick feedback loops on everything that we do, because it goes back to our mission to connect people's lives to wildlife, to inspire lifelong learning, and to move them to conservation action. If we can't accomplish those things with these investments, we don't make the investments. And 45% of the income is coming from earned revenue and philanthropic support. Then moving to the operating expenses, 56% of the funded animal care buildings, 56% of our expenses are in the area of animal care buildings and grounds, and 44% supported education programs and enhanced guest experiences. Next slide. In 2024, the Akron Zoo provided over $422,000 in free and discounted general admission tickets to the community to ensure that everybody was able to come and enjoy the zoo. For example, we offered 39 days where Summit County residents could receive free general admission to the zoo. 38,569 visitors attended the zoo on a free admission day, such as our community appreciation days in September. or our Martin Luther King Day celebration, our President's Day celebration, or our Election Day celebration. And then there are many other community partnerships that also yield reduced admission or free admission, for example, if they wear orange or blue on days that celebrate other organizations in the community. 25,000 individuals reserve general admission tickets under our Museums for All program at a discounted price of $3 each. And this reaches anyone who carries a SNAP card. Anyone who carries a SNAP card can walk up to our admission counter, show that card the same way anybody else would show a membership card, and this federal program supports that. Next slide, please. So, what does all of this amount to? It amounts to the fact that we believe you belong at the Akron Zoo. Everybody, no exceptions. There's many ways to connect with the zoo. We're open 361 days a year, many special events, many adult-only events, many education programs to fit all people, membership, employment, volunteering, our citizen science projects throughout the community. Frog Watch is an international citizen science program also headquartered at your Akron Zoo that makes a difference worldwide for amphibians. Philanthropy and many more options. Next slide. As a community asset, we do regularly ask, how can we better serve the residents of Summit County and beyond? That has yielded many opportunities for unique partnership and for building community. So what has that done? We have free days with Summit DD and the Summit County Children's Services. Again, back to that, wear orange to the zoo today, you get in for free. Wear blue to the zoo to celebrate the work of these organizations. You get free admission today. Backpack Adventure, it became a resource fair with Akron Public Schools as opposed to simply a distribution site for school supplies. It now fully encompasses the family and their needs as identified by Akron Public Schools. We have public transportation agreements with Metro RTA that can move people to these special events for free. And intergenerational Zoomobile programs with the Akron Metropolitan Housing Authority, all of which are making a significant difference. Next slide. Oh, and keep going, one more. Sorry. So this is an image of Backpack Adventure this year, which had record attendance at 5,685 people over 2 days across 8 hours. This was incredible. It is the highest attended Backpack Adventure we've ever had, and it was in partnership with close to a dozen other organizations across our community. Since the event was started in 2007, we've welcomed 64,000 visitors from the city of Akron to the zoo in order to support families in need in accordance with Akron Public Schools. Next slide. In gratitude for this commitment since 2007, the zoo was honored to receive the Akron Public Schools 2025 Community Partner of the Year this year because of the long-lasting impact. Next slide. And the tagline at the top is not ours. We don't take credit for it, but no fare, just fur. Metro takes you to the zoo. This has been a great partnership over time that's allowed many people who would otherwise not have access to the zoo to be able to get there. Next slide. So what's coming next? Next slide. I think most people have probably heard that our veterinary hospital broke ground this year. The hospital itself was planned throughout calendar year 2024, broke ground on April 11th this year, and is a great testament to collaborative leadership because it required people from across both aisles and across this entire community to come together to meet the goals of actually delivering this hospital, which is entirely necessary for the zoo. In a nutshell, our existing hospital was built at the point in time when the zoo had about 100 animals and a part-time veterinarian there once a week. We now have 2 full-time veterinarians, a cadre of veterinary technicians, veterinary keepers, and well over 2,000 animals, and this is absolutely needed, and we're looking forward to the opening at some point mid-year in 2026. Next slide. Oh, good. Right there. We're also in the midst and began in 2024 the renovations to Legends of the Wild, which we expect to open this summer. It will bring several new species to the zoo, many of which we are still working on at this time, but pictures from a draft are what you see up here, including cotton-top tamarins, golden lion tamarins, saki monkeys, axolotls, which if you have young children at home, every young child knows what an axolotl is, and most adults do not, so get up to speed. You'll have an opportunity when you come to visit the zoo. They, I can assure you, will be there, plus expanded habitats for our snow leopards, because we have one of the most successful snow leopard breeding programs in North America. Next slide. We will also be looking at a rededication of the John Brown Monument. The ceremony to rededicate the monument happened this year on September 28th, but sometime next spring, we will be opening jointly with the City of Akron and Summit Metro Parks a walking trail to get from our parking lot in Lot A up to the monument that will be fully secured and allow people to get up there without having to make appointments with the zoo. Since the monument had come within the zoo's fence over 25 years ago, it has always been available to the public, but you've always had to make an appointment because there was never a safe path to get there. There was always broken stairs when we took it in, and the monument needed to be protected. That's what we've done across the last quarter century, but we're very excited to be able to open the monument up to everyone in our community. Next slide. All right, Pride of Africa expansion. This is basically an update. We're currently in construction documentation. For those of you who don't work in construction, this is the last stage of design. So we do expect to be talking more about the project publicly once we finish design, probably next March. But this, as you would imagine by the slides, will bring giraffe to the Akron Zoo after 25 years of the public requesting them from the zoo. It took a long time for us to be delivering on it, but we're able to do so now, and we're very excited. They'll also be joined by a herd of wildebeest, ostrich, as well as other animals in that space. Next slide. So you can see here the timeline to opening day. We are presently in effectively the fourth quarter of 2025. We do expect all construction drawings done by the end of the first quarter of next year, and we expect groundbreaking sometime next fall and opening day to be mid-year 2028. So it's very exciting, and you have an entire team of people at the zoo who can't wait to invite all of you in to be able to experience phase 2 of Pride of Africa, which will finish telling the story that Pride of Africa began. Pride of Africa tells the story of rebuilding the pride in Soralo, in the South Rift Valley of Kenya, where the Masai Mara actually moved to save and preserve the African lion, and it's arguably the most successful African lion conservation program in continental Africa. We were able to tell the story of how the people made changes in order to save the lion. Now we're going to be able to look at what happened in the landscape with very large animals coming back in large numbers as a result of the Masai Mara saving the lion. So it allows us to complete a conservation story. And with that, I know I've gone a little long. Next slide, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions tonight? Jeff?
Rita, not so much a question, but a comment. Doug, could you tell folks what the hours are for Wild Lights at the zoo? If you folks haven't gone, and especially if you have little ones, you have got to go see it. And when you're at the summit of the zoo, turn around and look back over the city of Akron and the skyline. It's absolutely amazing to see the whole thing. And the last thing I want to say is, you all heard Doug just now say how many things are headquartered here in our Akron Zoo, and it's not just statewide or nationally, it's worldwide, and that's a home run for our community. So congratulations to you and your entire team, Doug. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And Elena, I'll let you tell the hours.
Wild Light Run select dates through December 30th, and it's 5 to 9 p.m. Get your tickets in advance at akronzoo.org to save some money.
You can tell the marketing person takes the mic. Any other questions? Oh.
We have a friend here, too.
Yeah, I was wondering, our smallest constituent here today, what kind of
Oh, my
have.
gosh. And I apologize. I walked around going and elbow bumping others because I'm a little bit under the weather. But Jen, would you like to come up? One of the things we always close with is one of our animal ambassadors joining us so that you can experience what happens within our education programs that help make those education programs unique. And Jen, would you like to take the podium for a minute and then join people?
Yes, so our ambassador animals are animals that we can take out into the community to teach people about animals. We meet people of all ages, and they travel. So today we brought our little screech owl. This is Lorraine. She's an eastern screech owl, and she's one of my favorite ambassadors to take out, especially to meet kids, because I love to share with them that these owls can be found right in our own backyards, which most people have no idea. We don't see them. They have the great camouflage. They blend in. They're up at night. They're nocturnal, so we're sleeping. And they just are great at blending in with the trees. So again, it's really exciting to see people's faces when they learn that there could be an owl like this, not just only in their community, but even in their own yards. Yes. Yeah. No, we can't touch her. She would get a little nervous if we tried to touch her. But she's also a predator. So she is an animal that will hunt, kill, and eat other animals. And anyone that knows anything about owls, they love rodents. And it's really important that we have our predators like owls to keep those rodent
Do we have
populations
other chairs? We can have these.
I don't think any of us
Well,
like
they don't.
rodents in our houses. They can cause a lot of damage. Also to farmers' crops, they can cause a lot of damage there. So it's important we have our predators. And as you're looking at Lorraine, you may notice she looks a little bit different. She is missing an eye. And she has a great story to share. I love to share this story with everybody because Lorraine was found in the wild. Most of the animals you see at the zoo have been born either at our zoo, other zoos. But Lorraine is an animal that came from the wild. She was found injured in Lorraine, and she was hit by a truck. And thankfully, the truck driver realized that he had hit an owl. He went back and found her, and he took her to the Medina Raptor Center, where she was cared for and treated. And they were able to save her life, but they could not save her eye, and also her beaks crushed, you may have noticed. So to put her back into the wild with like that, she would not have been able to survive without those things. So Medina Raptor Center contacted us, and we were able to bring her to the Akron Zoo, and she's an amazing ambassador for the zoo. And it's our hope that when people of all ages get a chance to meet an animal like Lorraine and get to look at her up close and ask questions, and some of our animals, not Lorraine, but some of them they may even get to touch, and they get to get that close experience, get to learn about that animal a little bit. And it's our hope that you will start to really appreciate that animal and care for it, because when we care about something, we want to protect it. And so giving people those experiences, we're hoping that them caring for that animal will make them make those conservation actions that are going to save not just Lorraine from extinction, but all the animals that we share our world with. So thank you.
Thank you.
Jen. And what this is an example of, empathy building between people and between people and wildlife is at the core of everything that we do. And I thank Jen for coming tonight, and thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Jessica Bohan, Community Outreach Director from Habitat Humanity. We'll talk about free safety kits offered to our seniors. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. That's kind of a hard act to follow, right? I know you thought you had to expect I was going to say something about that, right? So we received a grant from the city of Akron, Habitat for Humanity. We do cover all of Summit County. However, this grant is specifically for Akron residents this time around. So we are delivering safety kits to seniors age 62 and over in the city of Akron that meet the HUD guidelines. We have delivered so far about 200, so we're actually dropping these off to folks at their homes and taking them inside for them. And we have about 200 more to give out in the next 2 weeks or so. So the safety kits include a new carbon monoxide detector for them. They include a new fire extinguisher for their kitchen, a fire safe for their documents. Maybe they want to put their deed or medical records, things like that in them. They also include EMS notes. Don't know if you've ever seen those before. I didn't know what they were till I worked at Habitat. They go on your refrigerator, and you can mark anything that you might need to have on there in case the paramedics have to come to your house, and they'll be able to see that visible on your refrigerator. We're giving them flashlights and information on how to get the fire department in Akron to install their new fire smoke alarms for them. And so anything that you can do to assist us in getting these last 200 safety kits out to the community, these are going to seniors who are at or below the HUD guidelines, which is $56,200 for one-person household right now. We would appreciate it. I brought applications with me, so if you have folks that you know in your life that would benefit from having a safety kit, I have the flyers. I have not a fancy presentation or an owl with me, but I also have the applications with me. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. So could you please repeat how many kits you have available?
I have 200 more kits,
Altogether, how many did you get from the grant?
so about 400.
Okay.
And we're taking them straight to folks' house. So they don't even have to come get them. We did do a drive-through last Monday. We had about 30 people come through, but the rest are getting hand-delivered with a smile. Anybody else?
Does council have any questions?
Do you have enough of the flyers for each of us?
Yeah, I should.
Thank you.
I have lots of flyers.
Christine, you have a question? Oh. Okay, thank you.
If there's no other questions for our guests, I will go ahead and call the Personnel Committee to
Thank you.
order at 4:57. Thank you very much for your time. 4:57. First item on our agenda is 2025-327, a resolution establishing legal holidays for non-bargaining county employees for the calendar year of 2026 for the Executives, Department of Human Resources, declaring an emergency. Mr. Klepper.
Good afternoon, Chip Klepper, Director of the Executive Shapiro's Department of Human Resources. This is just our standard legislation approving the holidays for next year.
Thank you very much. Do I have any questions from members of the committee? Members of council? May I have a motion? I have a motion from Councilman Donna Frio. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now we have 2025-328, a resolution pursuant to Section 16904H of the codified ordinances of the County of Summit as set forth in Exhibit A, approving and adopting a report on staffing for calendar year 2026 for the executive and declaring an emergency. Mr. Klepper again.
Chip with the Department of Human Resources. This is, every year we are required to come to you to give you our list of positions. This, again, is not an employee list or an actual budgeted position list. It is just the spots available to the office holders for the year of 2026 on how they want to use them. Most of the offices stayed flat. This year, just a summary, most stayed flat. There were some changes, but they did not increase or decrease positions. The only one that increased, the engineer increased by one, sewer increased by one, the executive reduced by one. With that, it pretty much left us, we only increased by one position total for all the charter offices.
Thank you very much. Thank you for answering the questions I had regarding it. Any other members of the committee have questions? Members of council? Okay. I have a motion from Councilman Wilhite. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda, we have 2025-329, a resolution approving salary adjustments for classified non-bargaining employees Deborah Adkins, Maurice Dorrell, and Brian Tebelak for the engineer, declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Heidi Swindell, Summit County Engineers Office. Our very long-serving construction team manager retired. His official last day is December 31st. He was at the county engineer's office for 34 years, and it is going to be a very big job to replace him, but we're going to try. Instead of hiring in a new employee, we are redistributing his duties across 5 different employees. 3 of them do need council approval, and the budgetary impact for the specific raises in the legislation is $7,500. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, and then there'll be a net savings of the $95,000 from the salary.
Yeah, about 85, I would say 70,000
70,000.
once we get into all the other 2, if we add that in, yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions from members of council, members of the committee? May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Wilhite. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Heidi. If there's no other business to come before the Personnel Committee, we will adjourn at 5:01. Thank you.
I'll open up Public Works at 5:01. First item on the agenda is 2025-330, a resolution to extend the final design report to April 1st, 2026 for Springfield Township Spring Lake Outlet Ditch Petition pursuant to Section 6131.12 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I'm Dave Kuntz with the Summit County Engineers Office. We have on this project, the plans are just about complete. There's also an easement plat that's not quite complete. And once that's completed, we'll need to get a couple access easements appraised. And once we have the plans, the plat, and the appraisals complete, then we will prepare a final report, bring it to council, and have a final hearing. But currently, we have the date set for submitting the final report by December 31st. And I'm asking for more time. That's not possible with what we've got going on right now. So I've asked for a date of April 1st, but in reality, I think we'll get it to you in January. Any questions?
Any questions from members of committee? Members of council? Is there a motion? Motion from Councilman Schmidt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2025-331, a resolution to extend the final design report to April 1st, 2026 for Copley Township's Copley Ditch Petition pursuant to Section 6131.12 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Hi, Dave Kuntz again, Engineer's Office. Same story as for the other project. We're almost done with all the work. Expect to get the final report into the council clerk in January, but that will be after December 31st, so I've asked for an extension.
Any questions from committee? Questions from council members? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilwoman Hyam. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. 2025-332, a resolution authorizing the executive to advertise for bids as needed for stormwater improvement projects for the Summit County Surface Water Management District's 2026 Capital Improvements Program at an estimated cost not to exceed $13,880,000 for the engineer and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Heidi Swindell, Summit County Engineers Office. This and the next piece, we always do a blanket authorization to advertise at the end of the year. So in the new year, we can actually put the projects out to bid starting in January. We've gotten better prices if we bid out the projects in January and February. But all of these will come back to council to award the contracts. So you will definitely be seeing all these projects again.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? Questions from members of council? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2025333, a resolution authorizing the executive to advertise for bids as needed for road and bridge construction projects in the engineer's 2026 capital improvement program at an estimated cost not to exceed $7,925,000 for the engineer emergency.
Thank you. Same deal with this one. The earlier we bid it out, the better prices we get. Happy to answer any questions about the projects, though.
Any questions from members of committee? Members of council? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilwoman Hyam. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2025334, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a construction contract with Param Electric, Inc. for the Canton Road and Sanitarium Road Intersection Improvement Project located in Springfield Township in Council District 8 in an amount not to exceed $356,680 for the engineer and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This project will upgrade the existing traffic signal at Canton and Sanitarium. Yeah, Canton Road and Sanitarium, and it will put in a sidewalk from the high school to Sanitarium Road. This was kind of a late addition to our capital budget this year, but since we had the money left and we were ready to go forward, we decided to encumber that money this year so we can drop it from next year's capital budget. Happy to answer any questions.
So this isn't something that Springfield is participating in?
No, these are both county roads.
Okay. Okay.
So Springfield will be maintaining the sidewalk just because we don't maintain sidewalks. But other than that, no. Financially, it's all ours.
Okay. Any questions from members of council or members of the committee? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilwoman Hyam. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 2025335, an ordinance amending Section 339.12 of the codified ordinances of the County of Summit entitled Bridge Weight Limits to place, revise, or remove load limits on various bridges in Summit County for the engineer and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. We try to do this legislation once or twice a year just to update the codified ordinances to make sure that it's all up to date with what is load limited and what is not. We like to get that done because on the off chance anyone does get cited for being overweight on the bridge, we have a codified ordinance to point to and say, hey, it was legally posted on there. So this time around, we just had a revision for Glenwood, and then we're putting one on North River Road Bridge and the Glenwood Boulevard Bridge, which is different from the Glenwood Drive Bridge. And then are we removing any? Nope, that should be it this time. Any questions?
Any questions from members of committee or council?
So I was curious as to the revision on the Glenwood Bridge. Are we seeing a trend of revising weight limits up or down? Or?
So recently, yes, because the Federal Highway Administration changed what constitutes what the sign should say, and add emergency vehicle weight limits to each one. So we've had to revise a lot of them just to add on those different categories.
Any other questions? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilman Schmidt. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2025336, a resolution authorizing the executive to advertise for bids for the construction of Project Q456, Pump Station Number 29, replacement and force main replacement, located in the city of Stowe and the village of Silver Lake in Council District 3, for an estimated total cost not to exceed $1,200,000, and to authorize the executive to apply for and execute a loan agreement with the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund for a loan in amount not to exceed $1,200,000 to fund the project for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Michael Vinay, Department of Sanitary Sewer Services. Council previously approved the design of this pump station rehabilitation. It's located on North Dover Road off of Graham Road, and the force main will be replaced as well, which is located in the village of Silver Lake. The station is almost 30 years old and is in need of replacement. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this a common loan program that is utilized?
Yes, this is the most common loan we utilize for the department to fund our capital improvement projects.
Any questions from members of the committee or council? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2025-337, a resolution authorizing the executive to advertise for bids for the sewer lining and manhole rehabilitation construction for Project Q185, elimination of Hudson Sanitary Sewer Overflow Area J, located in the city of Hudson, Council District 3, for an estimated total cost not to exceed $200,000 for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This project is a lining project. We're going to be lining several existing sewers and lining numerous existing manholes due to the I&I situation up there, inflow and infiltration, which is coming into the system, causing sanitary sewer overflows in the city of Hudson. This project's one of many that we have slated for the city in order to eliminate those overflows. This is the first lining project we've done as part of this, but there will be others. The main streets involved for this project are Oviatt Street, Hudson Street, and Aurora Street as part of this first phase. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from committee or from council members? May I have a motion?
What was the two streets again? I got Oviatt and,
Oviatt Street, Hudson Street, and Aurora Street.
okay, thank you, sir.
Motion from Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 2025-338, a resolution authorizing the executive to cooperate with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the construction costs for the relocation of the sanitary sewer line due to the bridge deck replacement on State Route 91, located in the city of Monroe Falls in Council District 3, for the Executive's Department of Sanitary Sewer Services and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. As many of you are probably aware, the Department of Transportation is going to be replacing this bridge on State Route 91, the one that's located over the Cuyahoga River. That bridge supports a sanitary sewer along the bridge deck. As part of this overall project, we are paying our share to replace that sanitary sewer. It runs along the east side of the bridge, and Dominion East Ohio Gas is also participating because a gas line runs on the west side of the bridge. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from members of committee or council? Question is, when are they going to do it?
Spring of 2026.
Close the road?
The bridge will be closed. It's going to be a full detour until construction's complete.
How long is that going to take?
Their website says 180 days.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Any other questions from committee or council? May I have a motion? Motion from Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
If there's no other business before Public Works, I'll adjourn the meeting at 5:12.
Planning and Economic Development will open at 5:12. Our first piece tonight actually has an amendment on your purple sheet. May I have a motion to accept the amended version, and then I'll read it in? Motion from Mr. Wellhite on accepting amended 2025-339. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? An amended resolution declaring the impact of the Ohio Building HVAC and Finishes Upgrade Project on the fiscal officer's ability to conduct 2026 tax collections and emergency pursuant to Section 177.07A3 of the codified ordinances of the County of Summit, authorizing the emergency waiver of certain requirements under Section 177.15, and authorizing the executive to execute a lease agreement with PVC Cascade One LLC for the lease of approximately 15,931 square feet of office space located on the first and third floors of One Cascade Plaza in the city of Akron in Council District 4 for a one-year term from 1/1/26 to 12/31/26 for a total amount not to exceed $299,454.68 for the length of the agreement for the executive and fiscal officer emergency. Mr. Cassidy.
Good evening, Mike Cassidy, Summit County Fiscal Office. We're asking for approval of this amended resolution. I think everyone's aware of the Ohio Building renovation project. We had to move several of our offices to different locations. We anticipated being back in the Ohio Building for the first half of tax collection. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to be back, and where we're currently housed, we are not able to run a secure tax collection. So we looked at several places, and this was best suited for us. There's security that's on the first floor that we do not have to pay anything in addition to. And we didn't want to have a tax collection in the first half in one location and then another location for the second half. We thought that would cause the residents confusion and maybe not get real estate taxes paid. So that's the purpose behind this resolution, and I will answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Can I have a motion? A motion from Mr. Wellhite on 2025-339. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
2025-340, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a renewal first of two of a professional service contract with Retzel Consulting Solutions as a best practical source to provide economic development strategy, project management, and consulting services to the county for a one-year term from 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 and an amount not to exceed $96,000 for the Executive's Department of Community and Economic Development and declaring an emergency. Mr. Dodson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason Dodson with Retzel and Andrus, Retzel Consulting Solutions. I sent council a few different documents earlier today, and I'll kind of touch on the high points of those, and hopefully everybody did see the correction that I sent later this afternoon about some of the marketing plans on some of the site selection work that we're doing. So just from a high level, let's talk first of all about some of our business retention and expansion efforts. So far this year, we've collectively met with 204 companies. I gave a breakdown of kind of, I guess, segment of the economy that each one of those companies falls into. Similar to last year, about 40, a little bit more than 40% of the companies we've met with this year are either MBE or WBE businesses. And I think our current, I know last year's Net Promoter Score for the visits, which basically measure the satisfaction of the businesses that we meet with, was 81.82%. And I think this year we're actually higher than that number, closer to 85%, which in terms of quality or satisfaction of the businesses that we're meeting with, that puts us higher than some of the brands like Apple, Nike, et cetera. And when I say we, maybe just to take a step back for a minute, that business retention expansion effort is a collaboration between the county, the city of Akron, primarily, and the Greater Akron Chamber. And then when we are at other parts of the county where the city of Akron is not located, we plug in with their local economic development team for those business retention efforts as well. Probably the thing that I'm most proud about that we've put together this year, and we actually started at the end of last year, is our site development fund that we put together with not only a small amount of county resources, but also resources from the city of Akron, the Chamber, the Land Bank, and the GAR Foundation. Collectively, we put together $300,000 for that fund, and that was matched by $1 million donation from an anonymous donor that has a business interest here in town. They're not located here, but at least one of their businesses are. So with that $1.3 million, the purpose of that money is to not only identify sites that are not necessarily being actively marketed, but are in harder to develop areas, and that with a little bit of focus and effort we could potentially put onto the market for redevelopment. In the information that I put together for you all, I identified 4 different ways that we're currently using that money. One of those is we assisted a developer acquire land at 505 West Wilbeth Road over kind of northeast of the Kenmore neighborhood. We paid for a phase 2 for that property, and in exchange, the developer provided the environmental due diligence for the property next door, so that if he was not able to acquire the property, we would have additional environmental due diligence for surrounding properties that we otherwise would not have. Over at the Akron Fulton Airport, we've conducted both environmental studies and geotechnical studies to determine whether 2 pieces of land are able to be developed, and they are. And so that's the part where I indicated in the report. We will begin putting marketing materials together for that information. Probably the largest project we're working on with that site fund at this point in time is I think December 10th is our meeting, but we will likely award a contract to an environmental firm that's going to take a look at all of the, I guess what I'd call leftover land over at the Goodyear headquarters. If you drive around there, you see a lot of places where the new infrastructure was put in. You see curb cuts into land that's never been developed, never been touched. And the answer is that as we sit here right now, there's a lot of question marks about what land over there actually can be developed, what's too contaminated to develop, and just kind of has to sit and not have anything go on with it. And the purpose of that study is to not only identify what can be developed, but to put together a plan of what could be developed in those sites surrounding not only the new headquarters, but also the old headquarters as well. And then earlier, as I was coming in, maybe to switch tracks to another area that we focused on in 2025 has been really pushing business attraction efforts revolving around the Polymer Industry Cluster Initiative, which you may remember last summer we were awarded about $100 million for that effort. And I'm happy to kind of re-announce, it hasn't been picked up so much locally here in the news, but certainly in the plastics and polymer industry trade publications, that within the last couple months, 2 companies, G3 and MKV, it's MKV Polymers, I think the full German name for plastics is actually in the name and in the materials. Both of those companies are going to be locating offices here. G3 is going to be locating in Springfield and actually opened November 20th, and MKV is going to be opening in Bounce beginning in January. MKV is a plastics recycling company and came here in large part because of the designation that we got as the Sustainable Tech Hubs of the United States last year. So those are, I know you've got a number of people here. I'm happy to answer any questions. I could go on with additional things that we've been up to and happy to meet with anybody individually as well, but I'll kind of cut it off there for the other folks in the room.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody have questions? Ms. McKinney?
Thank you. So the 2 areas of land by the Akron-Canton Airport or Akron-Fulton Airport,
Akron-Fulton Airport.
Would developing those plots have a positive or negative or no impact on the airport?
So they would have no impact on airport operations itself, and it's relatively common for airports to, after they assembled land over years, to be able to lease that land out for development. Akron-Canton Airport has done a tremendous amount of that, and I think they probably still have about 300 additional acres. The 2 areas up by Akron-Fulton Airport that we're talking about, one is located up by Triplet Avenue and essentially west of what is already existing there in terms of buildings and other operations. So that piece of land is certainly out of the way. And then the other one is actually down pretty much due east of the air dock. And so it's going to be down and out of the way. Now, historically, when you had a north-south runway, you couldn't develop where that is. But now that the runway runs northeast to southwest, that land is outside of where any planes would go. So, yeah, we were pretty intentional in identifying what sites could be developed and then focusing only on those areas.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that safety was in mind for the airport, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure. Anybody else? Jason, what's the ballpark on how many jobs those two polymer companies are bringing to town?
So they're going to start out initially with very small numbers. So the operation in Bounce, I think, is going to start with 2 employees, and I think G3 is starting with 3. There is another company that is not located here that they're talking about also co-locating in their space. And I would tell you, out of the 2, I would see the growth. I would expect G3 will grow quicker. And the space that they're renting is certainly suitable for them to grow at a much quicker rate.
Great. Nothing else? Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Mr. Wilhite on 2025-340. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
We are taking time on 2025-269. Do I still need to read it? No. Okay. So with that, Planning and Economic Development will adjourn at 5:24.
And at 5:24, I will open the Public Safety Committee. First items, 2025-341, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute an extension to the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Akron for the boarding at the jail of misdemeanor offenders charged under a City of Akron ordinance or charged with contempt of an Akron Municipal Court judge for a term of 6 months from 7/1/25 to 12/31/25 in an amount not to exceed $2,464,348.50 for the executive and declaring an emergency.
Good evening, Lori Pesci, Department of Public Safety for Executive Eileen Shapiro. This is obviously an extension from the contract from earlier this year for the jail beds. We have been meeting with City of Akron officials throughout the summer up until just recently, trying to renegotiate their contract based more in line with jail bed usage. We were optimistic about getting a contract done and starting that new contract at the beginning of July. That did not happen, so we agreed to extend the contract for this year through the rest of this year, and then we will also be coming to you for next year's contract.
Are there any questions? Mr. Wilhite?
Yeah, Lori, when does next year's contract come to us? Because this is just a few weeks away.
It is actually the next piece of legislation, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilman Schmidt. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. 2025-342, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Akron for the boarding at the jail of misdemeanor offenders charged under City of Akron ordinance or charged with contempt of an Akron Municipal Court judge for a 1-year term for the period of 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $2,976,300 for the executive and declaring an emergency.
Lori Pesci, Executive's Office, Department of Public Safety. This is the 2026 agreed-upon contract with the City of Akron for jail beds.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. 2025-343, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a renewal, third of 4, of a professional service contract with Oriana House, Inc. for community corrections services for a 1-year term from 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $7,133,070.65 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety and declaring an emergency.
So this contract, I would respectfully request council to amend to a different not to exceed amount, and that amount is $6,568,446.17. And it is for our community corrections programs and services provided by Oriana House. As you all know, we have RFP'd for this every 5 years, and then we create 1-year contracts with renewals. We actually RFP for the services individually, and then we put all the services that they are providing into one contract, including day reporting, electronic monitoring, and work release.
So I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood. You want to amend the legislation that's before us?
Please.
Okay, change that amount?
Yes.
What do we need?
And that is $6,568,446.17.
Motion to amend? Okay. Do I have a motion to amend the amount in this legislation to conform to what Ms. Pesci has said? Okay. Motion to amend by Councilwoman McKinney. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, and then, yes.
Madam Chair, going back to 341, the 7/125 to 12/31/20, it says that that's a $2,464,000 and some dollar contract. Does that, has Akron been paying that contract since July, or that is by December 31st they're going to pay it?
I believe.
Yeah,
they
no,
have
Akron
been-
is 6 months in arrears on these, so they will actually pay this second half in the first half of next year. And that's historically the way this agreement has worked.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions on 2025-343? Okay, and then do I have a motion to pass the legislation as amended? Motion by Councilman Lacotte. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
The ayes have it. And then 2025-344, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a professional service contract with Oriana House, Inc. as the best practical source for operation of the Community Alternative Sentencing Center for a one-year term from 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 for a total amount not to exceed $2,642,304.41 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety and declaring an emergency.
Lori Pesci, Executive's Office, Department of Public Safety. So the CASC has historically been, this cost has historically been included in Oriana's Community Corrections contract. With all of the issues that came up with the government shutdown and the funding we may or may not have been receiving, I had requested to break this piece off because it is essentially bed space, not programming and services. So if we had to cut, we had a clearer picture of what we were using our funds for. So normally you would see it in the general fund contract. I had asked that it be broken out separately because it's more of a fixed cost for bed space versus services.
Are there any questions on this one? Do you have a motion? Motion by Councilman Schmidt, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. 2025-345, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a purchase contract with Tyler Technologies, Inc. as a best practical source to provide annual maintenance services for the countywide computer-aided dispatch and records management systems for a one-year term for the period 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $963,052.73 for the Executive's Department of Public Safety and declaring an emergency.
So this is for our annual maintenance for our computer-aided dispatch and the records management system that goes along with that. It currently serves 17 communities, the University of Akron, the SECC, South Summit Dispatch, and the prosecutor's office. And so all of those users pay into that total cost, the city of Akron being about 50% of that.
Are there any questions on this one? Do you have a motion? Motion by Councilman Schmidt. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstained.
Mr. Lacotte. So we have 3 yeses. Any opposed? The ayes have it. 2025-346, resolution authorizing the executive to execute a renewal first of 4 of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Akron for data hosting equipment and services for the computer-aided dispatch system for a one-year term for the period of 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $160,680, excuse me, for the Executive's Department of Public Safety and declaring an emergency. Not me yawning.
Sorry.
Very exciting stuff, sorry.
It's very exciting stuff. So this is just for the hosting
lack
piece
of
of it.
coffee in this
The
building.
city of Akron has taken on those duties. And again, there's a cost share proportionally by usage. So essentially they pay us and we, for about 50% of that cost as well. We bill all those communities that are using CAD.
Any questions on this one? Do I have a motion? Are you voting on this one? Yeah.
Does this include the?
It does.
I abstain, okay.
Okay, so not your motion. All right, I think I have a motion from Councilwoman McKinney. All those in favor? McKinney, yes. Any opposed? Okay, then the ayes have it. Thank you. All right, one more. 2025-347, a resolution authorizing the executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Akron for co-ownership of the countywide 800 megahertz radio system for a term of 5 years for the period of 1/1/25 through 12/31/30, with 2 options to renew for an additional 5-year term for the Executive Department of Public Safety and declaring an emergency.
So this is our annual maintenance agreement with Motorola for our public safety radio system, which serves every jurisdiction in Summit County, including the University of Akron. We have 10 tower sites and about 7,000 radios on the system. All the users pay to be on the system proportionally, so that is covered by user fees. The cost is covered by user fees.
Any questions? Yes, Councilman Wilhite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lori, on systems like this, do we have anything that helps protect the communication back and forth so others can't, I guess, hack
Encryption?
it? Or encryption? Okay.
So some departments do have encryption that protect, so if you have a scanner, you're not able to hear what the communication is, but that varies jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilwoman McKinney. All those in favor? Aye.
Same.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And with that, we'll
Thank
call
you.
the Public Safety Committee to a close at 5:35. Thank you, Ms. Pesci.
2025-319 is going to continue on time.
Okay, we'll open up finance at 5:37. Our first item is 2025-348, a resolution approving and adopting the 2026 operating budget for all funds, departments, and agencies of the County of Summit and appropriating funds as set forth in Exhibit A for the Executive Department of Finance and Budget and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Items 348 and 349 combine to be the county's operating budget for 2026. As we recall, we pull out Job and Family Services for Councilman Wilhite, and the total between them is just north of $700 million. The exhibits went out to council on Wednesday. I won't belabor it because we've been hearing the budget hearings since October. We'll finish those up tonight with our last 3 hearings and have the final piece in front of council to vote on next week. Thanks.
And council, historically, we've always sent these out of committee for second reading, and then you guys adopt on second reading at the last meeting.
Committee questions? Council questions? Can I have a motion, please? Councilman Ford moves on 2025-348. All in favor? You want to run?
The motion is for second reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next week, next month.
Yeah. However you guys want to do it, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want me to Councilman Ford moved on 2025-348. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, 2025-349, a resolution approving and adopting the 2026 operating budget for the Executive Department of Job and Family Services and appropriating funds as set forth in Exhibit A for the Executive Department of Finance and Budget declaring an emergency.
Same explanation as the last one, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Hyen moves on 2025-349. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Next is 2025-350, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of the purchase contract with Tobias International, Inc. at less than Sourcewell pricing for the network management software for a 3-year term from 11/1/25, 10/31/28, and an amount not to exceed $128,600 for the Office of Information Technology, declaring it an emergency.
Stephen Byrne, Office of Information Technology. So just what the description is a piece of software that helps do our network monitoring. It just gives us a live feed as to what's going on our network and kind of make sure we know what's up and running.
On that over-under, coming in at less beds, which then allow.
Councilwoman Walters moves on 2025.
That's good.
350. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Good,
Motion carries.
good. Congratulations. He's
I'm going to
stubborn.
make a motion I'm going to make a motion to move or to amend 2025-351. Okay, Councilwoman Walters moves on 2025-351. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. An amendment resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a purchase contract with Advice X Technologies, LLC, co-op pricing for Aruba switches in an amount not to exceed $108,644.75 for the Office of Information Technology and declaring an emergency.
So this is just part of our yearly maintenance program on our network switches. They come to end of life. Typically, network switches will run you anywhere from 7 to 10 years. We have a couple of switches that will switch out each and every year. This is a handful of them. We're targeting our DR switches and quite a few out at the engineer's office this round.
Committee questions? Council questions? Motion? Councilwoman Hyman moves on 2025-351. All in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
John, excuse me, John. We're doing the amendment first. Oh, he did? He did? Okay. Who moved it? Liz. Okay. There you go.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I think Liz.
Next item is 2025-352, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a purchase contract with AT&T as best practical source to provide local Centrex telephone and long-distance services for a 1-year term from 1/1/26 through 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $120,000 for the Office of Information Technology and declaring it an emergency.
Good evening, Dennis Babb with the Office of Information Technology. For those that aren't familiar, Centrex is kind of our historical phone system that we've had in the county for a number of decades. Back in 2018, we switched to a voice over IP phone system, the NEC system, for those of you that work in the county and have your little NEC phones. At that time, we converted about a little over 2,000 lines. We've spent the past 7 years trying to get a remaining about 600 lines off of that old Centrex system and onto our existing system, or cancel the lines outright. We are to the end of it. This past year, we've managed to close 10 of our Centrex accounts, and because of that, we're asking for $120,000 this year instead of $168,000. So this is $48,000 less, and I can answer any questions.
Committee? Council? Motion? Councilman Ford moves on 2025-352. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item in finance is 2025-353, a resolution confirming the award by the Board of Control of a purchase contracts with AT&T as best practical source for block hours consulting services for the offboarding of Centrex and long-distance services for a one-year term from 1/1/26 to 12/31/26 in an amount not to exceed $91,970 for information technology and declaring an emergency.
Hello, Dennis Babb again, Office of Information Technology. So, as hard as we've been working to get off of the old Centrex system, we're on to our last and final account. We've got about 225 lines on there. As we were preparing to start getting these lines converted over, AT&T sent us a wonderful letter this summer that said that they were going to be raising our Centrex rates from $3.30 per line to $65 per line. So that was going to take our monthly bill, at least for the lines portion, from $742.50 a month to $14,625 a month. So with some negotiations and wanting to step on the gas to finally get off of the Centrex contract, which you just approved, they worked with me, and we were able to get them to agree to our current pricing, which is the $3.30 for one more year, which is, again, what you just proved. In order to do that, we need their help to get off these remaining lines. There's about 150 lines left that we need their help, because this is spread across 15 different county buildings, and they've been there for decades. So all those people that put those in years ago have long since retired and left the county. So they have agreed to come in and assist us with these remaining lines, and this is what this contract is for. It's to a not to exceed, and when they originally put the quote on this, it was for the 225 lines. I can tell you that my team and I have already taken 75 of those lines, and we're preparing that as a list to take to AT&T so we can port that. So then they'll only be having to help us with the remaining 150. And I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Committee, any questions?
And so we anticipate being off Centrex altogether by the end of 2026.
I hope you never see me again up here for Centrex after this. It is my goal in life to be done with it next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis.
Committee? Council? Okay. Councilwoman Walters moves on 2025-353. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We close out finance at 5:46.
Thank you.
And I believe we're going to open up budget hearings. First up, Common Pleas Court.
All right. President Darrow and members of County Council, thank you so much for hearing about our court today. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but I do believe a couple of my colleagues would like to speak as well, so they will follow me. Thank you for the opportunity to present our 2026 budget. I am Judge Allison McCarty, the Administrative Judge of the Summit County Court of Common Pleas General Division. On behalf of the judges of the General Division, I want to express our sincere appreciation for your continued support of the court and for your commitment to maintaining a fair, accessible, and effective system of justice for the residents of Summit County. For 2026, the court is requesting an overall budget of $17,312,409, an increase from our 2025 adjusted budget of $16,839,623 for a total increase of $472,786. This increase does not reflect any program expansion or additional staffing, and we have worked diligently to present a responsible, stable budget that aligns with the county's fiscal environment. I would like especially to take time to thank the Department of Safety and also the Department of Finance for their significant help this year. We have new leadership in our court. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Bob Gaynor. He retired after 30 years of wonderful service for us. So we have a new court executive officer, Nicole Quester. She's here with us tonight. And we have a new assistant court executive officer, David Magura. And I saw him. There he is. So Nicole took over the reins and worked for many months without an assistant CEO or a human resources director. She was basically doing 3 jobs. And Lori Pesci, Alex, Bert, Phil Montgomery, and his staff, including Sarah and Maggie, have done an incredible job of helping our staff navigate the change in leadership and making sure we're in compliance with all of the county's policies and procedures in relation to our financial dealings. I would also like to thank Lisa Scapura and John Keenan for helping us understand all the nuances of documenting the various financial transactions conducted by the court. I also want to thank especially Executive Eileen Shapiro and Chief of Staff Brian Nelson for all of their support. We are grateful also for Council's continued support and for the collaboration provided by the Executive's office throughout this process. While our budget remains relatively unchanged, I do want to highlight two significant operational concerns that we hope to address collaboratively as we look toward the future. The first involves staffing within the Adult Probation Department. Probation officers supervise felony-level individuals and play a critical role in monitoring offender compliance out in the community and ensuring public safety. However, Summit County currently maintains one of the highest officer caseloads in the state of Ohio. This level of workload impacts the court's ability to maintain consistent evidence-based supervision practices and places a significant strain on staff. The seriousness of this challenge is further underscored by a pending grievance filed by the employee union, which is directly related to staffing shortages within the department. Our second concern is the absence of a director of information technology. As the court continues to expand its digital infrastructure and comply with increasingly complex cybersecurity mandates, the lack of dedicated IT leadership has created operational gaps in oversight, planning, and coordination. We recognize that the county faces real budget constraints and that these concerns may not be able to be addressed in the current budget cycle. Even if immediate action is not possible, we would welcome the opportunity to work together to identify a path forward. Our intention is to ensure that Council is aware of the operational pressures facing these departments and to begin the discussions necessary to develop long-term solutions that support public safety and protect the integrity of court operations. Thank you again for your partnership, your support, and your thoughtful consideration of our budget. I'm happy to provide any additional information or answer any questions Council may have, but I would like to first have my colleagues that wish to speak come up and talk, and then if you have any questions for me, I can try to address those for you afterwards, if that's all right. So, Judge Rollins.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. I know that a number of you have met with Judge Oldfield or spoken with her briefly about our request. We start from a position that in Summit County, we have double the statewide average of criminal felony indictments per judge. That we have 703, the statewide average is 300. We have 706, the statewide average is 353. Those numbers are not indicative of an urban versus rural versus large versus small county. If the data comes from the Supreme Court website, it's purely a function of the discretion of the elected prosecutor who exercises his discretion as he chooses and as he sees fit, to be sure. That double the statewide average is the genesis of everything that happens in the criminal justice system, from our docket sizes to people in the jail, to the number of people we have on probation. And I know that we got all of you documentation in support of the caseloads of our probation officers. They are significantly higher than other counties. And one of the things that we are, all 10 of us, agree completely that 6 additional probation officers joining our team will help reduce those levels and allow our officers to actually provide the supervision that I think the citizens of Summit County believe we are providing. but we're not capable of providing with these numbers. So these 6 officers are really critical. All of you are familiar with the TCAP dollars. The last I heard, those TCAP dollars are generating around $3 million for the county. That, to be specific, comes directly from all 10 of us. By not sending felony 4s and 5s to prison, we are able to receive these monies. That means that all those felony 4s and 5s not going to prison are going on probation. And we probably have, I would say, conservatively, we, as a bench, put about 70 to 75% of all people who come before us on probation. And those numbers are reflected in the documents that we gave you relative to the work study analysis. So if you have any questions, I know Joy has a couple other, I'm sorry, Judge Oldfield has a couple other topics that she may want to bring up, but this was my piece of it. No questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I think Judge McCarty made a request for some additional monies above the proposal. I know she's been working with Phil and Brian to come up with a budget that could sustain our operations. I'm not as informed about, I think that the 400-some odd $1,000 she requested encompasses the IT department and probation, additional hiring. It does not encompass our projected specialized docket shortfall, which is close to $200,000 that we're working with the county on, trying to figure out how we're going to bridge that gap when that comes, and maybe that's a conversation that we've decided to have for 2027. I know that a lot of our funding, unfortunately, didn't continue. That's happening all over. I know that you're all aware of that. And then, there are some other, court-wide concerns that we have about being able to operate with probation supervisors, for example, being at the same rate of pay that they've been when the collective bargaining unit increased the officers themselves. Supervisors did not get a corresponding increase. But I don't know if that's something that, Judge McCarty, you're working on for 2027. So I don't want to, speak out of turn about that. I do know that we are all aligned with whatever we can come to an agreement with the county on so that the court can continue to operate at the level that we're at, recognizing that, unfortunately, we have increased caseloads which require increased supervision, and we can't keep probation officers at the same workload without increasing the number of officers that we have, because what happens is more cases come down there and you keep the same number of officers, and just like Judge Rollins explained to you, their workload doubles. We're actually dealing with that now from a union perspective. So again, Judge McCarty's here, Judges Powell and Breaux are here too. They can address the questions. I think, that really encompasses our concerns. And I know that, I think our court executive office prepared what was the conversation and the proposal, so I'm not really sure what the ultimate numbers are that you guys have talked about, Judge McCarty.
Well, one of the things we had put together a proposal that increased our request by a total of $721,000, which is less than 5% of our operating budget. That would be 6 probation officers, a projected specialized docket shortfall of around $198,000, probation supervisor increases of 5%, which was around $34,000, that director of IT that was spoken about, and then there was an executive administrative assistant position. And when we look at, Phil came and spoke with us, we've been having ongoing budget meetings. He advised us that the TCAP money we're using about $500,000 of that to, in support of our probation department. I believe there is obviously a portion of that going to pay these Oriana House contracts. But 100% of those dollars are generated by the 10 of us. If in counties, we're about ready to go to Columbus tomorrow for the conference, there are counties in this state who get 0 TCAP dollars because their judges refuse to participate in the choice not to sentence nonviolent 4th and 5th degree felons to prison. So they've just said, you know, in some of these counties, a felony 5, breaking and entering into a barn, is a crime that their community wants to see incarceration for. We have Old 10 adopted the philosophies of less incarceration, and the county has benefited to the tune of currently about $3 million. So we're looking, I think, for some of that money to come back and help us as we are in this crisis.
And, you know, I just talked to Judge McCarty because we're just, you know, everybody has a wheelhouse, right? We're judges, so we do our judge job. You guys are doing your legislative job. They're doing their executive job. So we're not sure the procedure of how things work. Judge McCarty thought that it was, you know, the timing was off for us to request something different than was originally identified and proposed, which is why that's not in writing to you. But I think to the extent that we can, we'd like to continue conversations with Phil and Brian and you guys, and, you know, hold off on approving what was originally proposed, because we do have about, like we said, about $721,000 of concerns between probation, supervisors, probation staffing, IT, executive office, and specialized docket shortfalls. And that is just through the next year. So, you know, our administrative judge is here. She can speak to those things. I know Judge Rowlands has spoken to them. We can provide it to you in writing, but this oral request, which, by the way, oral requests work in court all the time. So if they don't work here, you know, my bad. But genuinely, you know, our goal is to work with the county, who has been, you know, Judge McCarty said it best, wonderful with us in terms of providing us support, providing us, especially when we've had transition in personnel, and trying to help us overcome some obstacles that we've had. But at the end of the day, you know, we need you guys to consider the fact that there's a significant shortfall in our budget that we're worried about coming up.
John, can I ask a question? So I think we're talking in a lot of different pathways, but let me see if I have this succinctly. We're talking about hits to the specialty docket. We're talking about not appropriately staffing probation. What does that mean in terms of impact in public safety, in real terms, for the residents of this county?
Well, I think that the probation piece is critical in the sense that these officers are the line of defense between the offenders on probation and the community in terms of reoffending, helping make sure that they're being drug tested, that they're meeting with their probation officers, that they're meeting the requirements and conditions of probation that all of us set for them. What we are seeing is that there are very long gaps in delays in probationers meeting with officers, and the officers are routinely reporting to us they don't feel that they're actually supervising their folks the way they are trained, educated, and experienced to do. So I know it's a great concern. Judge McCarty speaks about it frequently in judges' meetings, that you know, we don't want probationers out there being less than optimally supervised. Obviously, anything can happen anytime. There's no guarantee, but I think that getting these caseloads down to where the officers can truly impact their probationers is critical to public safety.
Can I just piggyback on that? So one of the
Can you,
problems is we have.
say your name for the record?
I'm sorry, this is Allison Bro, one of the judges. When our probation officers are overworked, they leave the office. We have an incredibly high turnover rate in the probation office. When a probationer is reporting to Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones leaves, then this defendant is without anybody supervising them for a number of weeks and sometimes months. So this is what happens. And then they have no rapport with the next person. And this is just continuously happening in our department. The second thing with the specialized dockets is, and I don't have the data for all of them, but I can speak to the data on my own court, in that my recidivism rate is 12%. The goal is 35 to 40%. It's 12. These are folks with severe mental illnesses, with co-occurring substance use disorders. These are people who have been in and out of jail and hospitals and victimizing people for years and years and years of their lives. And they're stopping because of these programs, because of reentry court, because of Turning Point, because of the wraparound services that we provide through those courts. These are essential to our community and keeping us safe. That's all, thanks.
Judge McCarty, can I ask, sorry, one more question? Sure. So I note that in your updated request, you chose to pursue the probation court, the probation stuff instead of the specialty docket. Can you speak to that and your reasoning behind that, please?
Well, our request was for all of those things that we talked about. Our request was for 6 more probation officers, a director of IT, filling the gap with the specialty courts, a new position of executive administrative assistant to help our staff with all the reporting requirements and things that are going on. And then also, I'm trying to remember what else, raises for the supervisors in probation. We asked for all of those things. You know, and respectfully, we worked hard with, our staff worked hard, and basically we're told that because of the situation in the county, which I understand, there's issues with the state, there's issues, you know, all kinds of uncertainty financially right now, that it was not prudent for us to get any of that. So we asked for all of it, and so I want to continue to work with it. We all have different priorities, but to me, adding probation officers would be, for me, the #1 priority, and then a director of IT, just because of all our concerns. We have 2 people that service 175, and 10 of them are judges who really know nothing about IT and expect an immediate response if something goes wrong. Like, my computer went off today telling me somehow, it's talking to me, telling me, there's a virus, you know, I don't know. I had to just call the guy and say, come up with it locked me out. I had no idea what was going on. We don't want to end up as one of those courts that gets hacked. And so we have to make sure everything's encrypted, and that is just a language none of us speak. And so we need somebody to help us with that. But respectfully, we did ask for all of this, and we're told this now's not the right time, just because of this financial situation in the county. So we're grateful for anything you might consider, but we will continue working with you towards that. If it doesn't happen now, we will continue working towards that, you know, in the months and year to come. So.
Thank you, judges. So just to give some perspective, how many probation officers do we currently have?
It's 42. 42. We did recently an employee, sort of an employee relations audit to sort of take the temperature of the probation department. And the main question I asked them to answer was, if you're leaving, why are people leaving, basically? So we did a lot of exit interviews. We had a steady stream of 10 to 15 officers leaving every year, which, coming from a department where it used to be, it was a career. I mean, if you got into the Summit County Probation Department, you were there for your entire career. And that, of course, times change with different generations and all, but still, it was a concern. And so we wanted to know, what is the #1 reason that you all are leaving? And there were some other, you know, managerial issues, but the main one was the caseload. The caseload is so overwhelming that they just don't feel like they can get on top of it. And so we have we have stuck the finger in the dike because we've tried so hard to work on morale within the department that we are actually fully staffed right now for the first time in years. But how long that stays that way, if we don't do something to help probation, is a big question mark. So,
and then have the number of offenders on probation, has that been increasing over the years?
Oh, it has increased incredibly, in part because of TCAP. There's a lot of other reasons. One of which is not everyone that's committing a felony or arrested for a felony is actually taken into custody. So they're summoned. This is a new practice that started with COVID. And so quite frankly, when you're summoned on an offense, you're already out. You never go to the jail. Guess what? You don't ever want to go to the jail. And so you and your lawyer work extremely hard to negotiate a resolution that does not involve jail or any form of incarceration, including prison or even Oriana House. So the summonsing has sort of changed the mindset of a lot of defendants who are willing to plead for probation but don't want to plead for any sort of programming or jail or prison. And so that's just that much harder work we have to do to give proper sentences on these cases. And so, you know, the jail numbers aren't horrible because of that, but then there's we're putting people on probation, many of whom maybe would not have necessarily been on probation, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, but they are now. And so that's also higher risk individuals. I mean, we are just working as hard as we can to just keep people running through. Come on, Ed.
So, this is Allison Bro again. Let me just interject with some data. I'm a data person, so I need to know the numbers, and I appreciate that question that you asked. We have 43 probation officers currently, with a similar population to Montgomery County. They have 10 judges. They have a similar population, about 550,000 people living in their community. Their probation department has 63, so they have 20 more probation officers, but our Summit County offenders on probation as of September 2025 was 3,566. Montgomery County was 2,800. So they have 20 more officers and they have almost 700 fewer probationers. So that is the data. I mean, fully staffed does not really encompass what we are. We are fine. We have people in the desks, but we don't have what we need. We need 6 more probation officers.
So,
That helps, thank you.
so you made the request for the officers, for the special courts, et cetera. Was any of that addressed in the budget that is in front of us?
Not that what we submitted, because none of it was approved. We had many, many discussions, and we completely understand why. It's not like they weren't frank with us about the entire state of the finances of the county and some of the major concerns the state has with some of the issues that are being discussed, you know, related to property taxes and all of that. So we understand. We're just being nice and, you know, saying, let's keep working toward it. I'm maybe a little nicer than some of my colleagues are a little more concerned about it. We're all concerned about it. But I don't want to ask the impossible here. But, yeah.
So the current budget, the one that's in front of us, is status quo?
Yes.
It's maintaining the, okay.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Judge, any of the judges, if I'm hearing you right, you're asking for an additional $721,000. That's a gap between what is currently on the table and what you need with the 6 other probation officers to go forward. So
not just the probation officers, all the other things we asked for as
IT
well.
person and-
It's basically every single thing we asked for,
Yeah, I got it.
frankly.
So it begs the question, why is there the difference there? And if it is an issue of dollars and cents, which it always comes down to, we know that, is this an opportunity? Because Judge Bro, I think you mentioned that the folks that are on probation, there's a heavy mental health component to that, and the folks that are in that situation. Is this an opportunity for us now to go to ADM and say, can you fund the gap? Or is that a mixing of funds that we're not allowed to do? So I'm just looking for solutions here, not knowing all the funding structure, but it begs the question, why the difference? And if you've been talking among each other, is it strictly dollars and cents that's available? If not, is that a pool of money that we could tap?
That we can tap? ADM dollars? No. ADM does provide grant funding to the court for the psychodiagnostic operations of the court. They won't directly fund staff. Now, whether there's a grant, and I know there's some ADM dollars that flow under some of your special
Right,
reports.
we do. We use, we have ATP funds through ADM. We have funds through OMAS. We have, I think you'll find amongst our bench, you have 10 judges who are routinely seeking grant funding to cover gaps and not go to general fund. For example, best practices require or at least recommend that you have a continuous prosecutor for your specialty programs so that there's continuity in sentencing and recommendations. When we decided we needed to do that, we worked with the prosecutor's office to apply for a grant, and we were able to get that grant, the Jack Byrne grant, that funded that position. In Turning Point, we wanted to improve outcomes long term, and by that, forming an alumni group. So we wanted to hire an alumni coordinator. Rather than go to the general fund, we applied for a grant, and One Ohio Recovery thankfully funded that opportunity for us. So we are very proactive about that, and like Brian said, we do have some funding through ADM, some funding through OMAS for those special programs, but there just simply are some shortfalls with lack of funding, and frankly, with expansion of the programming. For instance, Judge Bro started our mental health court years ago. We didn't have that program before. She's told you now what a benefit it's been and what the recidivism rate is because of that. But of course, with new programs come new needs. And so that's part of the shortfall that we're seeing.
With that being the answer, is there any opportunity to make the request and to get us over this gap? Because, and tell me if I heard wrong, but I heard TCAP, possibility of dollars in 27. Is that right?
Well, we have a generalized TCAP legislative understanding that we will abide by the terms of not sending F4s and F5s that are nonviolent to prison, and in exchange for that, the county receives a benefit. But we've talked to Phil and Brian about that, and I don't know how much of the TCAP money is already in the budget. So you'll have to, work out those dollars. We are, of course, I think what you're asking is where else can we find this money if we can't find it in the general fund? And all I can say, and I think I can speak for all of us, wherever you find it, we're thankful, because we absolutely are concerned about. We've only asked for bare bones things. We're not trying to create new opportunities or things like that. These are bare bones requests. The IT in particular, you figure the number of employees we have, we're a third branch of government. You have 10 judges. You have virtual hearings on the daily, and we have 2 people who work in IT. So it's a huge concern that we have such a small department. And while the county is, again, great at providing us support, we need to have our own encrypted services and our own people that are answering to us and making sure that people's rights are protected. Sometimes many times our hearings involve defendants who are receiving rights via virtual means. They have to be able to hear us. We have to make sure that we can hear them, that they can speak with their lawyer privately. We've worked with the county and developed a lot of systems, but we need additional IT support. So that's just one example.
Where I was going with that is, would there be a way for us to find some dollars that could buy some time?
Well, let's take a step back. TCAP, let me clear up TCAP first. I think you guys all remember a couple years ago when we kind of got into a disagreement with Mr. Lawrence and Oriana House about funding. TCAP was one of the central pieces of that disagreement. Ms. Pesci was up here tonight reducing the amount of the Oriana contract by $700,000. Mr. Lawrence finally this year for the first time came to us with a proposal based on the reduction of folks at CASC and to separate that CASC contract. This is what I'd call 3-year, I don't know if negotiation's the right word with Jim, but which finally has moved to the place of freeing up all of the CASC dollars that were going to Oriana to go to adult probation, sans 2 jail intake persons and part of a budget that the sheriff has, and part of a budgetary person that's charged to it. So, but what that does in reality, because Phil and Sarah and I met about this earlier this week as they were trying to finalize probation's budget, with how much the court's budget has increased. So when we talk about status quo is a much bigger staff with much better pay than it was several years ago. Those TCAP dollars do nothing more than allow them to maintain the status quo. So there's no additional TCAP dollars for funding. There's no TCAP going to Oriana any longer. In terms of staffing, looking at this budget, or looking at actually 2025 as we sit here today with the staffing they have versus 2018. So I posed the question to Phil and Sarah, hey, we go back pre-COVID when the budget really started ballooning. And the grants took off, because that was another thing. So many of these specialty court docket grants didn't exist prior to roughly 2017. So we looked at 2018. The county general fund has 25 more court employees on it than it did in 2018. 13 of those are adult probation officers. So we have significantly increased the staffing that the general fund supports. The other thing, I know Phil has negotiated with the courts several times, I think, on salaries. And this is not just the courts. It's been the prosecutor's office and other offices that for years have complained about pay equity and how tough it is to keep staff. The court's salary and budget personnel cost, general fund, since 2018 has increased 44%. The COLAs, cumulative COLAs to county employees, 19% over that same period. So the court's dollars for salary and benefits have grown more than double the rate of what the average county employee receives in benefit.
I do want to just interject on that because that the numbers sort of are slightly misleading in that point, because although there's a number of personnel that have been added to the general fund, many of those personnel were actually on the probation fund using probation dollars, and they were moved over to the court side. So we've got to make sure that we're recognizing that when we moved probation officers to run special programs and they became courtside employees, we moved their money and their budget with them. The same with like technology bailiffs, which we did not have. That was actually a function of the sheriff's office, and those dollars came with them. So
that's partially.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they
Overall,
understand.
with all the specialty funds, everything the court has, they have 21 more employees than they had in 2018. And as we sit here today, a lot of these grants that have come down through the feds, we're starting to see them dry up. That's $2.7 million in additional salary and benefits that the general fund could eventually be called upon to support outside of the ask for these additional folks. And I guess lastly, I would wrap up with, when Phil goes through his budget presentation, part of it will be the general fund forecast and general fund as a whole. And you've constantly heard us say we're relying right now on $20 million a year of investment earnings because we've had all this money, a lot of it ARPA money that is now starting to go out for projects. And investments rates were raised, and we all see at the federal level, we have a president who wants to drive down interest rates. Our ability to sustain, I think Phil's going to tell you, what we even have now is a serious concern as we go forward. So we continue to have dialogue with the courts. We will continue to look for ways to fund these, but it's not, as we sit here today, and we've also started negotiations with the FOP, and if we gave them what they were asking for in their first contract offer, we'd be talking about laying off hundreds of county employees. Though we remain hopeful that which is usually turns into when we get to fact-finding, that's not going to be the case. But you're also going to hear from the sheriff tonight, and I'm sure you're going to hear about her needs as well.
The only thing I would add to that is up to this point in the conversations with the court, I've not said no. I've just said not today, like not in this base budget going to council, because there's a lot of what-if scenarios baked into this forecast. And if property taxes don't grow at 3% and sales tax doesn't grow at 0.5%, and property taxes go away altogether, we're going to be looking at a different picture next year. And so I just asked them to get a finance person hired, get an HR person fired, then we can talk about the IT person and the other needs and the other thing. But the reality of it is the pie is divvied up as far as it can go. And so we'll continue to talk, we'll continue to work. The judge mentioned that they're fully staffed for the first time in forever. Let's let the dust settle on that, look at the numbers in the first quarter, have continued conversations of what that might look like. That's where I left the conversation.
Yeah, and I want to be clear on behalf of my colleagues. I mean, they've been great to work with. Everybody has their own concerns. They're concerned with, a number of entities. We obviously have to be concerned with how we can run the court. So again, I just want to make sure that we all understand that this adding of 21 employees over the last number of years is not technically accurate. While we have moved people onto the general fund, they were being paid from a different source and their money came too. So we need to really separate out who was added. We also have to recognize that, what Brian says is true, that, if all of our funding dried up, then the general fund would be on the hook for, potentially everything that the court operates, but that's just not how it works. We're partners with the county. One example is that the person who screens all of the drug court cases for the entire county, and she screens hundreds of people a year, used to be on general fund. And 3 years ago, I applied for a grant from BJA to expand the scope of Turning Point Screens so that we could serve more of a population and that we would make sure that we were serving the right population because of the number of people that are on our regular criminal docket. We put her salary on that grant. So we've saved the county 3 years of her salary because of that. Now, that grant is going to run out at the end of this year. And so next year, we're going to have to come back and say, okay, we need to move her back to general fund. But I wanted to tell you that so that you understand we're partners with the county. There are courts across the state who mandate their budget and just order it. We've never done that, nor would we. We enjoy the cooperation that we have with the county, and we want to work cooperatively in that regard. But there are some very significant concerns. You know, the fully staffed comment Judge McCarty modified to make sure you understood, that's fully staffed for what our needs were, you know, however long ago. That's not fully staffed for what the caseload is now, as evidenced by the workload studies that we have.
How many caseloads does a probation officer usually take on? Could I ask that question, please?
Yeah, it depends on the risk level, because high-risk individuals, the probation officer requires a caseload that's less than low-risk individuals. You understand? Because high-risk individuals require more oversight. And so our specialized programs are a good example. Specialized programs, best practices require you serve high-risk, high-need people. And I believe the national standard is, Shannon, what, like 30 probationers? What is it? 20 to 1.
What is it?
And so, in other words, one probation officer is only supposed to have 20 probationers reporting to them for a high-risk, high-need caseload. We have far exceeded that.
Okay, I was curious.
And that does speak to community safety. And that's why it's tough to come in and ask for what Brian and Phil are saying we don't have the money for, because we work cooperatively with them and we appreciate their help. But we have to have the oversight of the court and speak to the court's interests.
Joy, our number is 89.
Yeah, so for example, our number for probation officers is 89 to 1.
And Montgomery County is 45.
So just to give you an example of the difference in what, you know, is appropriate.
Yeah, there's no question our numbers are not best practices at all. We understand that, and it may be true in other counties too, but they're not even close. I just want to finish. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how great the Summit County Sheriff's Office is, how well these deputies work with us and keep us safe. We have a lot of volatile situations that happen in our courts, and our deputies are there. We need them. It seems like these acts of violence that happen, and they happen a little bit more frequently these days. We work with the sheriff. She created all these video rooms. The Department of Safety spearheaded that. It really helps, keeps the inmates over in the jail for the most part on all their pretrial hearings, and they seem satisfied to stay over there. Most of them, every now and then, they demand to be brought over, but that reduces the safety concerns. So I want to give kudos to the sheriff on that too, because I didn't mention that. But that video court, we have been playing around with that for a couple of years, and we are really at a point where now everybody seems to be able to hear everybody, and there's a lot of control there, and so the tech bailiff situation is working out well. They help us a lot, so I just wanted to say thank you to the sheriff for that too. So thank you so much.
I don't know where we go from here, but we wanted to bring it to your attention.
I just want, if I
Thank
can
you for
jump
your
in.
time.
Thank you for coming out, judges. I appreciate it. I appreciate being evidence-based and data-driven. I think that was mentioned earlier. I particularly appreciate workload analysis because it doesn't leave much to mystery. It's just basic math. You are calculating the amount of labor that you need to serve a population, and then you're calculating the number of hours of individuals you need to provide that labor. There should be not too much mystery when you're doing that, you know, and there are wrinkles like an intensively supervised population, I understand. There are best practices, and there's a good deal of research that some of you have cited either directly or through your experience that support that the higher caseloads go, obviously you're going to have a negative impact on retention of probation officers. You have several negative impacts on outcomes that matter. And this county, I think I've been very impressed in how the executive's office has supported addiction intervention and mental health issues. So I think we need to consider return on investment here when we look at hiring probation officers, retaining them, having a promotional process for them, and educating and training them properly, and keeping them in a place where they want to stay in Summit County. Because I think the research indicates, and you could perhaps back me up or counter me on that, through your experience, that if we do have reasonable caseloads, and you provided a workload analysis that compares with similar and disparate counties, that the research indicates that there's positive outcomes. There is a return on investment. So, you're talking workload analysis, staffing analysis. I'm a nerd on that. That's in my wheelhouse. I like to do those. I like to look at those. And again, shouldn't be too much mystery in terms of what we need. So I would encourage us as a council, as the executive, to seriously look at this, because this is, in my review of the literature, it provides a big bang for the buck, if you excuse that expression. It's huge return on investment, okay? We're looking at outcomes, not outputs, so to speak. And when we get into budgets, sometimes we focus on outputs, okay, in dollar amounts, and we don't focus on outcomes. And when we're dealing with addiction and mental health and public safety, because this deals not only with the security issues, but also with recidivism, as I think Judge Breaux touched upon, and reduction of that, there's a direct, it's not even a correlation, it's a causation effect that we can determine. I think the literature is clear on that, in reducing recidivism and maintaining probation officers in public safety. And so if we can't work this out this year, I would love to be part of the solution in trying to work this out next year. But there should be no mystery in staffing, okay? When you look at these numbers, when they're asking for 6 probation officers, the math is pretty clear. In my view. And so thank you for your efforts in coming forward here. I know the night's going long, so I'm going to shut my mouth now, but that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you for being data-driven and evidence-based.
Thank you. And to build on that, I first want to thank you, the judges, for actually coming here. Not every court does that, and I appreciate having you here to actually answer our questions. I've heard a lot that is very convincing about the impact of the probation officers, the IT. We haven't heard quite as much about the specialty courts, but I know, although I don't practice in them myself, but that they have a huge impact, not just in terms of the things that we're talking about, public safety, recidivism, saving money in other areas like the jail, mental health, addiction services. There's all those impacts, but it's impacts on people's lives, on trauma in our communities, and it's a huge impact. And what I want to know is the difference between what's in this packet and what you're asking for. What is going to be the impact if you don't get your request on the specialty courts?
So we're going to be struggling to figure out how to solve the problem of retaining probation officers. We're working on trying to come up with some solutions. We got the staff now. David used to be a chief probation officer. We have a chief probation officer. We want to work together to try to figure out what we can do to streamline some of the other work that they do. For instance, they write memos to the court constantly, and some of them are very long and detailed, and we're going to try to come up with a way to streamline those. Just because they spend so much time writing memos, they can't see probationers. I mean, the workload is just, I interviewed quite a number of these people, and they said they go home in tears because they just feel like they're drowning. And it's sad to hear, and sometimes you don't hear it until it's the exit interview. So it's honestly, it's the worst job in the court anyway, as it is, dealing with offenders who don't want to be there. They don't treat the probation officers the same way they treat the court staff or the judges. A lot of them can be difficult, especially at the beginning. And so they get a lot of the difficulty, and they don't get a lot of the reward in the job, which is actually able to help somebody by spending significant time with them. They're not seeing that as much, and that's, I think, part of the problem. As far as the specialty courts go, that's the gold standard. That's the gold standard to how to get the best outcome for a person. The best outcome is interaction with the judge and heavy monitoring and all kinds of resources. It's not maintainable for the entire, you can't do it in that kind of numbers for the rest of the, the clientele. But it's the gold standard. And so if we lose that, we lose a lot. And we are one of the most progressive courts in the state when it comes to our support of specialty courts and our forming of specialty courts, our knowledge about specialty courts. Judge Oldfield trains at the All Rise Conference, which is a national conference. So we are the gold standard, and that is the gold standard for really receiving the best outcome for someone who's been introduced into the criminal justice system. But, and we have 3 reentry courts, that bears mentioning too, where we're bringing people out of prison early that would not normally have come out. Judge Rollins and I and Judge O'Brien, we run reentry courts where the ticket into reentry court is you got to go to prison first. And then we let you out, even if you're a higher risk person that we would normally have not let out. We let you out because we're going to monitor you so closely and really try to have a safe and positive transition. But that requires personnel, money, grant funding, and it's very hard to sustain. And so we are worried just because of the situation in the federal government and what's happening with some of the grants. We don't know what's going to happen this year. They may get, some of these grants may get renewed, or they may not. So it's a question mark. And so it's a question mark for the county, it's a question mark for us, a lot of questions. So I'm just so happy that you're all asking us these questions, and we want to work together. We don't want to be unreasonable and demand more than our court, that other courts are going to get. And we are trying to be reasonable here. But I'm glad you all are now made aware of the issues. And so we'll just continue to talk. And once again, I want to thank the county for, and Phil's right. He never said no. He did never say no. So, but at some point you got to come and stand in front of council and ask for money. So, so at this point it was a no. But yeah, he never said no on all these requests. So that's why I said we want to just keep working on a path forward. So thank you so much, and I don't want to take up anybody else's time. So thank you.
John, if I could, one last thing. I mean, and let's face it, the elephant in the room. It's been this. I've been here 21 years, and I've had this conversation with probably every office in the county. We operate on a 0.5% sales tax. And so it's been a constant parade over 20 years of, well, look at Montgomery County, look at Lucas. They got double the staff, they got double this, they pay more. They all operate on 1 to 1.5% sales tax. We don't. And so virtually when we bring every office holder up here and do for a long time in the budget book, internal audit was doing comparison metrics of our offices to those other comparable counties. And we always looked like we were working way harder and doing way more with less, because we are. And I mean, the reality of it is when you operate on a 0.5% sales tax, and as you've heard me mention, we got $40 million of inside millage that voters they're lining up to get signatures to repeal next year. Which is why over the last couple of years, I've definitely supported what Phil's been doing and working with offices. We're always kind of nibbling away at trying to get some more staffing and increase pay. It's never quite enough, and I'm sure if we invited every one of the offices back here, they would all tell you they need 20, 30 more people. So the courts are obviously very important, and we continue to work on it, and we're going to have to continue to work on it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, one last thing too. On the budget, the specialty dockets, the grants, they're not part of the annual operating budget. So when those grants come in, they come in when we get them awarded, and that's when those get approved. So for instance, like TCAP, it's not in the annual operating budget. It's appropriated when we get the grant from the state of Ohio.
There is an adjustment.
Thank you guys for hearing our concerns. I don't know what happens next if you guys talk to the county, if we have more meetings, but those are our requests and concerns. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. Next up, Sheriff. Thank you for coming, Sheriff.
Well, I hope it's not as long. Oh, well, you see the size of my book? First, I want to say thank you. You know, every year I come to you, and I periodically come back and talk to you throughout the year when I ask you for your support for various things that we're doing within the sheriff's office, and you're always gracious and you always listen. So I just want to say thank you for always supporting the Summit County Sheriff's Office. For the record, I am Summit County Sheriff Candy Fothery. A couple of the things that I would like to talk about first is a few of the positive things that have occurred before I go into the budget. One of the most important things is that we passed our jail inspection at 100% for the first time since 2015. That was a big deal and will continue to be so. This year, with some grants, we added a addiction coordinator and MAT, which is medicated assisted treatment for our inmates in the jail. And since then, we have detoxed over 1,500 people this year in the jail. It's becoming very successful. It's much less dangerous, and it's better for everyone that is in that jail, not just the people that are coming in with addictions, but also for my staff as well. And these people are, in fact, leaving our jail in a much better position and healthier than when they came in. In addition, the addiction coordinator is working with those that have detoxed and have been addicted. He's working with programs on the outside to connect them, so that the objective is we'll get them clean and sober, we'll get them started, and then they'll go out into the community, and working with ADM Board, they will continue receiving medication to assist them for them to stop using drugs and or alcohol. So, and hopefully that will assist in reducing recidivism. On a very positive note, this year we graduated 3 people with culinary certificates that are guaranteed jobs when they leave the jail, when they left the jail, because they're now gone. And in 2 weeks, I will have a formal cap and gown graduation ceremony for 4 inmates who are receiving their high school diplomas from the jail, not GEDs, high school diplomas. So we're doing a lot of really good things in our jail. You have been sent the budget from the executive's office, and my budget is $45,352,080 in general fund, $13,278,011 in special revenues, for a total in 2026 of $58,630,091. Overall, the 2026 budget compared to the 2025 budget is relatively close. It accounts for normal expected year-over-year increases. However, working with the county, they gave me 2 additional staff members in our ESORN, which is our sex offender unit. So those salaries are included in the new budget. We here in Summit County have over 1,100 sex offenders who register at our jail between monthly, every 6 months, and yearly. So we needed additional ESORN coordinators to work with them. As Brian said earlier, we are in contract negotiations, so my budget could change. But I do want to let you know, kind of going with the judges, I'm requesting 6 deputies at an estimated cost of $771,570 to be allocated back into my staffing budget. From January to September of this year, the Common Pleas Court had a total of 13,567 current cases. 255 of those were assigned to visiting judges. By the end of September of this year, they had 53 trials that had already been conducted. The judges are requesting deputies for most of these trials. Incoming cases in the Common Pleas Court have increased by 54.7% over the past 5 years. And our court ranks 4th statewide in incoming cases per judge and is the highest among Ohio's top 10 most populated counties. I don't anticipate a decrease in the number of cases coming through our courts. In 2023, I gave up 6 deputies so that the courts could have tech bailiffs. Brian Nelson and I talked about it, and we really thought that CCTV, that those booths that Judge McCarty spoke about, that they would reduce the need for additional deputies in the courts. And in many ways, they did. However, due to the violent crime, gun violence, and gang activity, every time defendants appear in court or go to trial, their family and friends contribute to a more dangerous environment in our courts. As a result, we're short-staffed at our courts. That raises safety and security concerns. Since 2021, when I took office, I have reduced the number of deputies performing duties that civilians could handle, and I assigned the deputies to roles that only law enforcement officers can perform. The mass departure of law enforcement officers in our county has created many challenges across the county. We are working with multiple police agencies to address gun violence, mass shootings, large protests, and unlawful gatherings happening in our county. So I want to make it clear that I have no personnel available within my organization to reassign to the courts. So I'm requesting a return of 6 deputies, and their estimated cost for salary and benefits is $771,571. I do want to make it clear. I've been working with Phil, and Phil has helped me with the majority of the things that I've asked for, and our budget is really good. He asked me to wait until the spring. And so I'm telling you that I'm telling you this now, because if we are not able to do this, I will be coming back to you in the spring. Currently, we are down, as of today, because I had a retirement and 2 resignations, we have 26 vacancies for deputies. At this moment, I have 2 lateral hires that will come in before the end of the month, and 14 cadets who are graduating this week, and I will swear them in as full-fledged, full-time deputies on December 31st. I also have 18 cadets that are starting in the academy next week, and they will graduate at the end of April. What that brings me to, starting with my 26 vacancies, getting the 14 I'll have by the end of the month, and the 2 that we have in process, and then the 18 cadets that will graduate at the end of April. If I can get the 6 deputies, at the end of April, I will be flush. Every position will be filled. There will be no vacancies other than normal attrition retirement. I already know I have a deputy retiring in the next 3 months. His position is being abolished, so it's not I'll have a couple here and there from this point forward. It's basically going to be a 1-for-1. Somebody retires or resigns, we'll have somebody in the wings to bring them in. But by the end of April, 1st of May, I will be fully staffed with no vacancies. And hopefully that would include these 6 deputies that I'm asking for. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them.
This question pertains to the people that are detoxing?
Yes.
How long would somebody be medically vulnerable when they are detoxing? Is there kind of a range
It's a couple
there?
of weeks.
Couple of weeks, okay.
Usually, I think it's somewhere around 10 days. With us giving them medicine, it reduces the length of time that they're detoxing, and it improves their health while they're detoxing. When a person is detoxing, that is the highest probability of potential death. So that 10-day window, with us having closer supervision, because the nurses are on the unit, we have them all in one location now. And so the nurses on the unit are paying closer attention to them, giving them more often checking their vitals and paying closer attention to them as they're going through this. Plus, they're getting medications now. Before the addiction coordinator that I received in June, we were detoxing people on Benadryl and Tylenol.
Okay.
Now we're giving them medication that's genuinely helping them detox faster and better.
And so how frequently are their labs monitored, and how quickly can the medical staff then respond, based on
There's
labs
a nurse,
that are alarming?
There's a nurse on the unit almost all the time. That's why we put them all on one unit. All the men are on one unit. And we also have those that are detoxing. We have them double bunked so that they have a roommate. In the event that that person starts to deteriorate, their roommate can also alert us. If a deputy happens to be doing a round and has not made it to that room yet.
So their labs are monitored, like, for instance, liver function tests for somebody that's detoxing from alcohol.
You're asking me medical questions I don't have the answers to.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure that I would think those would be part of the monitoring process, so, okay.
Yeah, our medical staff is paying very, very close attention. And they, since we put them all on one unit, there's always a nurse there, or pretty much always a nurse there. I mean, they're there all the time because we've got over 150 people on that unit that are mental, medical, and detox.
Well, it's good they're being watched closely. Thank you.
They are.
Bethany, too, it's what they're being detoxed off of, too. Everybody's different. And then if you have the mental, they're in there with, they're on their medication, and then they're actually using, a substance on top of their medication, so that it just all depends on what they're doing.
Thanks for coming out, Sheriff. Good to see you. I have 3 questions. One is, what's the fully staffed number in terms of deputies? You mentioned if you got the 6 deputies, you'd be fully staffed.
I have, at this moment, we are supposed to have 314 for 2026. I am 26 deputies short. Now, that does not include the 6 that I'm asking for.
Thank you.
So as of today, I have 26 vacancies.
Thank you. My second question is, you mentioned sex offender programs. Do we have an electronic monitoring program in the county that the Sheriff's Department monitors? Are you allocating resources toward that?
No, we do not monitor electronically sex offenders.
Okay. And then because I know that's resource intensive for other counties, that was just a question. My third question is, you had, for the past few years, you've been speaking about a reentry program, this idea of a revolving door into the jail and how important it was to address that issue. And I forget, I think there was a name to that program. My question is, what's the status of that, and how are you doing with that initiative? Because I remember the first couple of years, you were speaking pretty eloquently about the importance of that.
You're talking about Thrive.
Yes, that's it.
Thrive is doing very well.
It's thriving. Great.
It is doing very well, and they still have a very high positive results. I have not got recent numbers from Summit Psychological. I had to stop and think of the name. Summit Psychological monitors that. But the house, Thrive House, is mostly filled the majority of the time, and they're not coming back. So far, the recidivism rate is very good.
Very good.
And I will check that out by the end of this year to see where we are for the whole year.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Apologies if I missed this, but can you explain, if you're 26 below full staff, where are you going to find 6 more deputies to add?
I currently have 26 vacancies today. At the end of this month, the end of December, that 26 vacancies will be down to 10 because I have 16 people in the pipeline that will be hired by the end of the month.
Okay.
So I'll be down to 10 vacancies. I have 18 people going through the academy. When they graduate, that will take me down to, actually, I'll have 8 above.
Okay.
And I'm asking for 6 more to be added to that 26 number that I've got right now. So currently, the county allocates 314 deputies. So I'm asking for a total of 320. Okay?
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and wrap this up with the executive's budget. There are 2 handouts that are going to come around to council. I'll keep this brief. But essentially, the general fund for the county, the budget as it stands today is $174.6 million. On the first handout that is vertical, the top section is the executive's office general fund budget for the administrative functions of her office. And along the right-hand side where I put notes, if it's not salary or personnel related, I made a note of kind of what was driving the increase. But please remember that the general fund budget includes a 2.5% COLA across the board based on when union contracts expire. It includes a 7.5% healthcare premium increase, as well as a 27th pay for 2026. It's every 11 years we end up with a 27th pay. And I've forecasted that that one pay is going to cost the general fund $3.5 million. So this is all inclusive of that. You'll see under the administrative departments that executive administrative services, so that's Craig Stanley and his team, they have an increase. Most of that is driven by contract services. So with the remodel of the Ohio building, we're hoping to have an actual carpet cleaning contract. So when we get all the new carpet put in, we can keep up with the maintenance on that. There's some other maintenance contracts that are unknown. So I think that was the tune of about $500,000 of what's in there. Under the public safety general fund budget, there are 2 very large contracts that used to run through IT that are now running through public safety. So essentially, we made a switch in 2025. We were essentially double budgeting. We were budgeting for direct pay contracts in the IT budget to pay it, and then we were budgeting it again in internal services. So I kind of eliminated a step in that process by moving contract encumbrances that are specific to a department or a function back to that department for them to manage it and pay it. So that's the shift you see there in public safety. Economic development added some additional community grants with the DFA and the chamber. The other fund section, this is everything else that we oversee. So it's all the countywide functions, and looking through at where we go into some of our HUD-funded, block grant-funded, 911 funded services, as well as our internal services funds. I will send council a new version of this. I did notice on the bottom that I've neglected to take out internal audit and OIT. Those groups have already presented to council, so it's a little bit off, but I'll send an update on that. But in general, going down through the line, highlighting the biggest ones on here, the number one I'm going to go with is our public defender's office, and Andrea's here. Her contract will be coming to council next week on first reading passage, so she can answer any questions you have on her contract there, or is available tonight if you have questions. But I wanted to, that one's on there with the explanation of the revised budget. A lot of the things that you'll see on this sheet is the original budget, so that's what you passed in 2025. And doesn't take into account anything we've added through appropriations throughout the year. Whereas, like, when you look at the budget book, you're going to see the revised budget, and that's the original budget plus items that council added to appropriation. So on here, for the legal defender's office, it shows a larger increase than is actually true, because we started out at 4.2 million when we passed the 25 operating budget, and then we came back to council and added and increased the budget to 6.2. So when we look at going from 25 to 26 in true dollars, it's an increase. It's only an increase of $1 million, not 3.1. Going down the list, the next big one is an additional $1.5 million into general fund transfers out. General general funds transfer out is the line that I use to pay shortages in like the dog and kennel fund and the general funds portion of OIT and HR and those kind of things. So I added $1.5 million because we created in 2025, we made HR and payroll internal services funds. So I had increased money into that line up so to pay the general fund portion of those two internal services off. The next one down, public safety communications. Again, it looks like $1.5 million increase, 1.6, but really we adjusted their budget in 2025 to 3.3, so that one's actually a little bit of a decrease. We had the 911 wireless fund. We had created a new fund, which is why you don't see budget for 2025. That's a new reallocation of how the 911 funds come in. The wellness dollars, you'll see, also did not have an original budget in 25, so that looks a little wonky. The next two are the two biggest ones. So we have a $11 million increase in our healthcare fund. That is, I mean, we have brought to council several times, and in the last appropriation cycle, we added $13 million to claims because that is the true cost of our healthcare claims that are coming in the door. Now, we do get rebates and different things with MMO and our prescription things, but that is the amount of appropriation we're anticipating we actually need to do to pay the bills on a weekly basis. So that is in there, an additional $800,000 in our stop loss fund. So all in all, if I look at the executive's office budget for the all funds with those corrections, we're looking at a total budget of $163.2 million in those funds, which is an increase of $20.4 million. But again, $12 million of that is just healthcare related. So it's really an increase of $8.7 million or 6%. So a 6% increase when you think 2.5% COLA, 7.5% healthcare premiums, and a 27th pay is kind of right in line with where we should be. So I'll stop there on the executive's budget if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to hop into the 5-year forecast and burn through that real quick. So that way, it'll kind of tie everything together as to why the different conversations with the different offices and departments have had is all driven by this 5-year forecast. Everybody good on the executive's budget? Any questions there? All right, so now the horizontal page, the 5-year forecast. You should be used to seeing this. So I'm right now this is updated through yesterday. This is through November's actual numbers. So I'm forecasting that we're going to end 2025 with general fund revenues of $178.2 million and expenditures of $177.2. So we're going to have about $1 million left to add to the general fund unencumbered cash balance. As we move into 2026, now this forecast has a 3% COLA in it. I bumped it up a little bit from 2.5 just given on where we were with FOP negotiations, and that's probably going to change again. But this forecast does have a 3% COLA in 2026, although the budget before you's got 2.5. But I'm factoring that we will generate $176.5 million in 2026 and spend $175.4 million. Again, we'd like to kind of have a little bit of a net of about $1 million as we move year to year for any unexpected expenditures. I think I've mentioned in the FOP negotiations, because a lot of people see, if you look, there's an ending general unencumbered fund balance at the end of 2025 of $11.3 million. Well, you got to remember our property taxes collections come in twice a year. So I have to fund cash flow to get us from January 1 until the days of the large installments of county property taxes come in, usually the April-May timeframe, and then again in September, October. So that cash isn't just sitting there for us to dole out. I've got to have it to make payroll. So that extra $1 million we have in the forecast is to kind of mitigate some unexpected things, but then to also be able to add a little bit more to our ability to cash flow that as we go forward. So, but the important thing in all of the decisions that we've made in the 2026 operating budget and what positions to add and which ones not to add and which ones to monitor and have continued conversations on is all driven by this, because you can see by 2029, if nothing changes, we're into deficit spending of $2 million a year. And again, this is an optimistic. It's not an aggressive forecast or a pie in the sky budget, but it is a little optimistic. So you can see my assumptions on the bottom where I don't show a recession. I show moderate growth in sales tax, modest growth in our property taxes, if we still have property taxes next year. So this is a good day. This is kind of business as usual, but I update this every month. And so if anything starts to turn in 2026 in these monthly forecast updates, then we'll be having other conversations with the departments on where do we need to tweak and where do we need to start slimming back a little bit. The overall budget, target budget that went out to the county, again, had the salary increases and the healthcare premium increases, but everywhere we could, we kept the other discretionary spending flat. So whatever you had last year in supplies is what you got to start off with, supplies for 2026. So we were conservative in that respect. There were some additional needs that came in from operational functions that we had to do, but overall, I feel comfortable with where the 2026 budget fits within this 5-year forecast as it sits today. But I will continue to update council as I always do, and I'll call if something happens funny. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Phil, 2 questions. The surrounding counties, are we the lowest sales tax of the surrounding counties?
We still are. So us and Stark are still at 0.5%. Everybody else is anywhere from 0.75 to 1.5. I think Coshocton's 2 because they got a special additional add-on. So it's one of those things we continue to focus on. When I talk about deficit spending, we may need. I mean, even if we increased our sales tax by by 0.25%, taking us to 0.75, we'd still be the second lowest in the state, and it would generate about another $27 million that we could use for public safety. I mean, so as we watch this 5-year forecast, we're going to have to continue to have those conversations.
And the thing we're going to have to watch too is what happens next year with property tax. That's going to be our big.
Yeah, if there's a complete repeal, our sales tax in Summit County would have to go north of 20%.
Yeah. Let me ask one other question. As it relates to hirings under grants, does the county have a policy that, let's say you have a 3-year grant and it's going to hire somebody for X job? Is it understood by that employee that that's just for a 3-year employment under that grant? Or does it become a situation like, well, we really like Betty, so we're going to keep her and try to put her on a...
There's not an official policy. That has always been the way we've worked, that if the grant funding runs out, you either need to find a spot in your budget for them or request additional budget, or the position goes away. So that's how we've operated.
It's hard in nonprofits. It's only when grant, there's no...
Yeah, and that's what the conversations we're having with the courts is the general fund can't absorb everything they stand to lose if their grant funding goes away. Now, there are some things, like Judge Oldfield said, we've worked out some stuff to get through 2026. I think there's still a little bit left to be worked out, but we don't have a solution for 2027 at the moment.
Regarding our budget and property taxes and some of the initiatives of this, or things that the state has passed, what other states have done the piggyback of the homestead exemption and the homeowner occupancy credit? I believe Butler was doing that. Is that correct?
I think there were, about 8 counties?
Yeah, I do have a list. I can send you the list of who's done it. I will tell you this, and I want to talk to CCAO staff. We've had an on and off continuing dialogue. I don't believe that law, as the state passed it, is constitutional. And I think it's going to run into a problem at some point. So I want to follow up. I also don't know that this coming year is the time to go after that when voters are looking at eliminating all property taxes. But it is not, what they adopted, this piggyback, does not follow what the state constitution provides for in establishing a homestead program, which is reducing the values of the properties to establish the credit. And by the state, in 1970, when that constitutional amendment was adopted and the long existing homestead exemption was put into place, the state was able to then pass a law that said, yeah, reduce the taxable value to create the credit, but don't count it against the countywide valuation, and we will make the taxing authorities whole. by making the taxing authorities whole and not counting it against the countywide valuation, they avoided those taxes getting dispersed out to everyone else. So the credit's actually based on a valuation reduction. This credit's not. They're just saying double the amount and nobody gets paid. And that's not what the Ohio Constitution provides for to create that credit.
And provided it was legally, you know, if it was allowable by law.
Yeah.
We have the difference of having a much lower sales tax in our county, or I mean, the portion that our county takes is lower than other counties take.
Yeah, but that, because the way it works is if the county passes the piggyback homestead, basically it just comes off the top of every taxing authority's collections. They just don't get that money. So the sales tax component, which would include our own inside millage or charter millage now.
Okay.
So the sales tax component doesn't really come into play. It's basically they're making a decision that every school district, every city, village, township is going to get less tax money. And it's not based on any kind of valuation adjustment.
So-
And they gave that authority to commissioners, but again, I don't, well, everybody just, no, the counties don't pay for it. Nobody pays for it. And that's where I think.
It wouldn't affect our general budget.
It would only affect ours to how much inside millage we would lose that goes to the general fund.
Okay.
But that's where I think the whole thing becomes unconstitutional because it just creates a taxable, voters approved millage to tax properties based on the value of that property. And if you don't reduce the value of that property, there's a tax liability due by that property. And so it really creates a situation where if somebody sues 3 years later and it's found to be unconstitutional, all of those seniors and veterans and everybody who got that credit essentially all have delinquent taxes they need to catch up on. And that's part of what I want to follow up. You guys, I know some of you are going to be down in Columbus this week too. Welcome to join me in those conversations if you'd like.
Thanks.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing. Judge Oldfield, who kept saying, well, it's not really 21 additional, well, it is. I could give you the names of the 182 people on payroll today versus the 161 that were on payroll at the end of 2019. It really is 21 additional positions that the court has grown by since 2018. Because sure, they've moved people off, but then they've backfilled all those. She gave that anecdotal story about moving somebody off to a grant and saving the general fund, but then they turn around and use that money on the general fund to hire someone else and backfill that position. Good job, Phil. Yeah.